All right, Scotty's up with his topic. We're still managing expectations? I'm not sure I have any expectations anymore. It's been so long.
We didn't even clear the last time.
We have not finished managing expectations.
Now I'm a little nervous because it sounds like Alissa was encroaching on my decree here.
She always does that, though. She encroaches on everybody.
But that's okay. I might just force her to
bungle your flow.
No, I'm going to bungle her flow next week.
Let's do it. Let's bungle.
Well, because basically where we got it, we talked to Frank last week about from the real estate agent's standpoint what their responsibilities are and making the offer, and we're basically what happens after your offer is accepted.
Right.
And so Alyssa's on the hot seat this week because this is what she does for a living. This is what she does every single day.
That's why she's the mortgage mistress.
That's why she's the mortgage mistress. And so what I wanted to talk about is what I wanted you to talk about is what happens exactly and what are the timelines, because there's certain timelines that you can do things and you can't do things. So offer is accepted. You've got the contract. Escrow is open. Go.
What do I do? Okay. First thing I do is I contact the buyer to collect and update their STIPs. STIPs, now again, STIPs
what
are
is a STIP? That sounds like you need cream for that.
STIPs are your documentation. So the taxes, the W-2s, the pay stubs, your bank statements. Okay, so when we come back to you.
So those are stipulations.
Stipulations. Okay, so some of these expire. Okay, so
those are like your pay stubs get old and your bank statements aren't updated. So you have to have last 30 days worth of pay stubs at the time of escrow opening.
Correct.
Last 60 days worth of assets.
Correct.
Bank statements or 401k or anything like that.
And right now I'm collecting a lot of tax returns for 2011. Because before we didn't really need to look up, but now we're in that. Now that they're due, we're collecting those.
Can I ask you another question? At what point do you have to have 2011 tax returns? Because I, like many people, filed an extension, so I won't have mine until October.
No, only if you haven't. If you filed them, then you need them. If you haven't filed them, then sometimes you might have to have proof of the extension.
Okay.
Okay, but we're starting to.
I always wondered that. It was like a mailbag question from myself.
Bam.
Bam.
Source.
So
we're going to be collecting your updated the items that have been expired. That's the first thing I want to collect. I'm also going to be talking to the real estate agents and letting them know what kind of disclosures I need. Okay, to collect that in, because what we're doing is we're preparing your file to get it ready to send to the processor.
Well, the final underwriting process, right? Because they're already basically pre-approved, which is the preliminary underwriting.
Correct.
Now we got to back it all up.
Correct. Okay.
How about you order the appraisal?
Well, that's where we're going next.
That's where we're going next.
So
but you can't do that right away, Frank. Don't jump the gun.
You're bungling the flow.
It's so important to me.
Okay,
it's so important.
It's always a problem.
And this
that's
is key that you want to make sure that you
have
get
we locked
our
rate yet?
In. Not yet. So we want to make sure that you get that in as soon as possible, because now we're on a timeline. Okay, so even if certain things sound stupid to you or sound like, why do I have to turn that in? Don't worry about it. Let's just get through it and send it in.
Just listen to the mistress.
Right. Okay, so now that we've collected your updated documents and we've updated your application, we send that in, and now it's time to order the appraisal.
That's stupid.
You're like some kind of fortune teller or something. Or seer, Frank.
So we cannot order that appraisal unless we have certain paper documentation or disclosures, okay? So we're going to order what they're called your initial disclosures, and we're going to go over them together. And it's basically stating the parameters of this particular loan.
Is that when the lender has to commit to the fees and the rates and everything that's involved, or what is that exactly?
We are committing, but these aren't your final numbers. Your final numbers will come later. Okay?
And they're always different, be it a little or a lot.
Right.
They're
but
always
is this
different.
the good faith estimate thing
this is the good faith
that
estimate
everybody
that
hears
everybody
about?
Okay.
Got it.
So we're going to go over these, and these are also important to sign and get back. And I would recommend going, whether it has to be by phone, I would say by phone, but go over them with your loan officer, because you want to make sure you don't miss anything. Okay, and they can go with you page by page. Hey, make sure you sign here, here, and here. Once we get that back, then we order the appraisal, and we get that in.
Well, don't you have to wait a certain number of days?
Not if you sign a particular form. All we need is what they call the truth in lending disclosure.
Okay.
Okay, then what?
Okay, so now that we've ordered the appraisal, what do we do
And
now?
then?
Usually, Okay, so now processing, which remember when your file, it's going to go through certain various magnifying glasses. The first magnifying glass was the loan officer with the pre-approval. The second will be the processing department. Their job is to prep it for underwriting. And the third is going to be underwriting. So now the processors looked at it. They may ask for some additional documentation. We'll send that to you. You get that back in. And now it goes to underwriting, which is the final hammer.
And then?
And they may ask for additional documents.
Well, and one of the
Seems
reasons
to me like there's a lot of documents here.
Well, here's the thing. A lot of these documents have to do with the property, too.
Correct.
So depending on what kind of home you're buying, if it's a condominium, that's going to require a whole bunch of different documentation from the condominium complex. If it's a townhome or if there's Mellows or if there's in a homeowners association, there's different documents depending on the property. So it's not that it's kind of like you don't know all the documents you need until you're in the process. So it's not that we could have collected all that stuff up front.
And this brings it back to it's so important to work as a
it back.
team.
Yep.
The first team is actually the agent, the lender, and the buyer. The second team, you're adding new team members because you're adding escrow.
Right.
If you're buying a condo or townhome,
And title.
now you need all the HOA documents.
Right.
Lender has to pressure. Well, usually escrow is good about ordering it, but lender's got to stay on top of escrow to put in the demand for the documents because they need it for verification. I mean, you've got to stay on your timelines. You got to work together, or the whole thing
Now,
could
the
fall
majority
apart.
of this is going to come within what we call the contingency period, which is usually the first, generally 17 days.
All that comes in 17 days?
Sometimes it's
Yeah.
got to be 10.
Sometimes
Yeah.
it's gotta
Holy
be less.
Toledo.
Okay,
It
and that's
happens
why-
fast.
Yeah, that's why it's key to make
I had a
sure,
girlfriend like that
like
one.
those items that I said, the first 5 before escrow, why you want
We
to
made
do
it
it ahead
35
of time.
minutes.
That way.
No, I say we made it 35 minutes till he made an ex-girlfriend reference.
I know, right?
That was this is a new record, I'm pretty
But
sure.
because it is so fast, you have to compress all this within a certain time frame. That's why it's important to get a lot of that hard work done ahead of time. And that's why it's also important to get stuff back as soon as possible.
Well, this is kind of like we were talking about the whole process up until you get your offer accepted is like going up that huge hill of Colossus or whatever.
Well, we're down
and then,
now,
And
huh?
then as soon as you go down, there are a lot of moving parts, and that's why it's so important. Again, we keep saying the team, but the communication between all of the parties is so important.
Is there
And
an
as
I
much-
in team?
There are many eyes
I was just checking.
that come together to create a we.
I
think
didn't mean
the
to hit
dead
the
air
brakes,
was-
Scott. I didn't mean to hit the brakes.
Is there an INT?
You know, because there's
actually
no
had
I in team.
Yeah, I
It's
actually.
rah.
Well, I actually had a basketball team with the owner of a company who was
I-team.
one of the most egotistical, self-centered, narcissistic people I've ever met, and he actually named the name of our team TIEM because there is an I in team.
Ah,
Okay, so
got it.
anyhow, so
All right, so
yeah, I mean, it almost sounds like you're starting everything over, but you're not, because you're basically 95% of the way done until you get
building.
your property done. And then that 5% is all the stuff that can't be done until you've identified the property, and then you've started the process there. And that's that whole team thing, because you don't know what you have to deal with until you have to deal with it.
right.
You
A
don't
lot
know
of
what
times,
you
If I
got
were-
till it's gone.
If I were to break
Right.
it down, it would be you
Break it
open
down.
escrow.
Break it down.
Okay, you open escrow,
Open escrow.
update your documentation,
And then,
you sign your initial disclosures,
and then,
you order your appraisal,
and then.
and you go through processing and underwriting.
When you lock in your interest rate?
Lock in that rate.
Do you have to lock it right away?
No, you do not. This is going to be a preference, I guess. I personally like to wait until I get loan approval, which will be after the underwriter comes back to you and says, I approve this loan. The reason why I like to do that is because I know I have a loan. Okay, and that I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people that disagree with me.
Well, but you're a little bit different because you watch the markets very, very closely.
Yes, I watch them throughout the day.
Yeah, so you watch them throughout the day, and you can also recognize if rates look like they're going to go up or down. So if it doesn't look like rates are going to go up, you're telling them to go ahead and float, go ahead and wait, because it's typically a 30-day lock. And although you should have, and this is this is our big bank versus small bank versus
Big bank,
the
Frank.
type of lender, because I know you at our company we close in about 23 days,
Right.
but I know that it's pretty typical for some larger institutional banks to take 45 to 60 days sometimes,
Right.
just because there's more people, more process, more red tape or whatever. So when you lock that interest rate, the longer you lock it, so like if you can't close within that 30 days, it costs you money, right?
It's going to cost you money. And that's why I like to wait until I get that loan approval, because things can happen. They really can. And
Oh yeah.
So you can lock
and
too
they
early.
usually do, right?
And unexpected things will happen that really some people sometimes can't foresee. So for me,
Thus
I
the
do
unexpected.
like to get to the approval, because usually by then, pretty much all the cards are on the table. You know what you're dealing with, and I can really have a good timeline how long it's going to take me to close this sucker. So I would say
You sound like Johnny Rod's now fishing. We're gonna reel this sucker in.
We're gonna reel him
so.
in. All right, did we break it
That's
down?
what I would do. Okay.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
she just broke it down.
Yeah. Open escrow. Update
Get your docs.
documentation.
I mean,
and
Scott had
sign
her
your
under the
initial
hot lamp and
disclosures,
everything, and she just smooth
order
sailed right through it.
appraisal,
She's a
get
pro.
loan approval, lock your rate, close that sucker.
There you go.
Get your keys.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Just don't call the REO agent.
the
'cause they
mortgage
won't
mistress
answer.
helping out the dean with his managing expectations. Have we still got more of those? We got a couple more segments for that? What's after
I mean,
this?
Maybe what we can do. I think we can squeeze one more out.
Can we squeeze another segment out of
Yeah.
this?
All year
Well,
long.
yeah, we can go to the closing table because it's not over
the
till
closing table.
Funding
it's not
and
over
all
till
that
it's over.
stuff.
There's a
Things happen.
docs being drawn. Your final funds coming in. Yeah. No,
Is that
we've
gonna-
got one more.
Is that going to be the
This is a record.
The semi-title is
How
going to be
about
"It ain't
buy-
over till it's over."
That's
You're
exactly it.
I
Buyer
like it.
surprise in the end. They see the docs finally.
Frank,
the
find your
phone
own.
book,
Yep.
and they freak out. And they,
Get your
"Where
own
am I
segments,
signing?"
Frank.
Get your
This-
own
this
15
This is the
week
dean.
segment.
Part of the whole